Hey guys, Shane with Monkeying Around. Are you looking for a place to go kayak camping in North Carolina? Well, check out this video. I got a neat little spot to tell you about. So a couple of weeks ago, I started I put up a video about neat places to go kayak camping in North Carolina. And in that first video, I talked about the South Fork of the New River. Hands down, probably one of my most favorite places because it is so user-friendly for somebody that wants to go kayak camping. If you hadn't seen that video, go back and check out that video. You know, leave me a comment and tell me what you think about that. But this one, just like in that video, I didn't pick the whole river. I picked just a section of the river. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. This time I want to talk about the Yadkin River. And not the whole Yadkin River because it basically starts up at the headwaters off of Kerscott Reservoir and it runs down into South Carolina. Eventually meeting up with the PD River, turning into the PD River, and flowing on out to the Atlantic Ocean. But I want to pick just about another 30-mile section, perfect for a little weekend, a long weekend trip to go kayak camping. Now the Yadkin River was what we did our first ever Get Your Paddles Wet trip on. We met up with Yadkin River Adventures up in Rockford, and they helped us get set up to do our first ever Get Your Paddles Wet trip, and we did that in the summer of 2017. Now we had about 12 folks go with us, had a nice little group, and I had a blast. I think everybody else did that weekend, had a good time, but that was our first ever trip. Now what we did was, I'm only going to talk about one section of the river, basically Birch Station access down to the Donahaw access. That's the section of the river we paddled. That's a little over 30 miles, give or take, right at 30 miles. Perfect for a little weekend getaway, and it's real user friendly. We ended up meeting up with Paul up at Yadkin River Adventures, and he got us on the river, provided shuttle, anything else that we needed, and put us in at Birch Station. Day one, we paddled Birch Station back down to his access at Rockford. That little section's about 12 miles, and it's a good little flowing section of the river, but there's no real rapids to it. You're not going to get in any kind of trouble. It's a perfect little beginner section of a river for somebody that wants to kind of just get out there and figure out if they like kayaking or that kind of thing, and they can do it, and just practice your skills on the water. But day one, we did about 12 miles, Birch Station down to Rockford. When we got to Rockford, we camped at his private access. Now, he has an access that he owns on the river. He uses it for his outfitter service, and he let us camp there first night on his property. And that was nice because we got to camp with our vehicles, so everybody didn't have to haul all their gear in their boats for the first day. Really super nice about that. Plus the fact that once we got to camp, we had our vehicles there. We had brought a grill. We were able to grill out steaks. We had a really good meal that first night. The next morning we got up. We spent the night there. We got up the next morning, and you could go back to about a quarter mile up the road is some of the best food in that area, and that's Rockford General Store. We went up and we all had some sandwiches for breakfast and that kind of thing, and they make their own homemade bread, and it was just amazing. But we had sandwiches, everybody got their breakfast, we got loaded up, and we got on the river to paddle our next little section of the river, which was about another 11-12 miles down to Bean Shoals and Pilot Mountain State Park. Now, right as you come up to Bean Shoals access and the Bean Shoals section of the river, it's a real shoaly section. There's a lot of rocks and a lot of little ledges and small rapids and that kind of thing. It's a real pretty area of the Yadkin River. Right after you pass the access, stay river right, and there is a paddling only campsite that is owned and operated by Pilot Mountain State Park. And for, I think it was like $20 a night, you can rent the site. There's actually 2 sites right there. There's only 2 little sites. They have 2 deck pads, places for you to set up tents, that kind of thing. It's not a hammock friendly area, but we were able to make it work. We found some trees and kind of made it work where we could get in on some trees and do some hammock camping. And that was super nice. We made it work. It's got a little trench toilet. It's got a fire pit. It's got a little grill. Check out our Get Your Paddles Wet 2017 trip videos, and you can see some of the campsite there at Pilot Mountain State Park. So next to nothing, you can rent the campsite there and spend the night there at Pilot Mountain State Park. So we ended up coming there, another 12 miles down Rockford, down to Pilot Mountain State Park, and from there we spent the night there at Pilot Mountain. Got up the next morning, had our breakfast, got everything loaded back up, and we walked our kayaks back up the Yadkin River just a little bit to get around some islands and to get far left on the river, because that is where the shoaly area of the river goes. It's the best paddling spot in that little section of the river, is right there. So we walked back up the river and we put in there at the shoaly access, or we got back in our kayaks there, and we paddled back down through the shoals and down to Donahaw access. Day 3, we ended up at Donahaw access. Now, Donahaw's a little park up there, and it's really popular in the summertime for folks that want to paddle a little bit, or swim a little bit, or fish a little bit. It's a little park. They've got a little beach. It's a neat little area to go and just kind of spend the day with your family, having a picnic kind of thing. But that's where we ended up. Now, that little section's about 8 miles, and there's a couple little small ledges, boogie water, little small rapids in there. Nothing crazy, nothing that's gonna mess you up. Because if you flip over, all you got to do is just stand right back up, and you're good to go. Nothing that's really going to hurt you per se. So that's the Bean Shoals to the Donahaw section. Now we finished that up, and once we got to Donahaw, we called up Paul from Yadkin River Adventures, and we spent a few minutes getting our stuff on the boat. He come down, getting our stuff off the river, and he come down and picked us up and shuttled us back up to our vehicles back up at his access. So if you kind of looking for a place to do like a little weekend trip on the river kayak camping, get a hold of Paul at Yadkin River Adventures. They're a full service outfitter. They rent boats, they rent gear, they put you on the river, they take you off the river. Whatever you need, whether you got all the gear or just a little bit of gear, he can get you on the river to spend a little weekend kayak camping. And he's a super nice guy. But make sure you go and stop in at Rockford General Store and get you one of their sandwiches, because those are amazing. This is a perfect 30 little miles, do a long weekend, and spend a couple of nights on the river. If you got any questions, leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you do, give me that thumbs up. And stay tuned, because I got some more stuff in the works. We're working on some more videos about places to go kayak camping in North Carolina, and maybe in South Carolina. I'm working on something there too. Thanks for watching. Go get your paddles wet.